do you think you'd be a good Hollywood fixer?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. 100%.
Seriously?
But I wouldn't call myself a fixer. I think I'd be a good PI or someone who could dive deep into stories because that's all I've done throughout like most of my career.
Welcome to the Hollywood Raw YouTube page, guys. We're happy to have you here. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave us comments, do all the stuff.
What are you waiting for? Let's go. I got a drug addiction to feed.
Welcome to the Hollywood Raw podcast. My name is Adam Glynn. On the West Coast is Dax Holt. I'm on the East Coast. He's on the West Coast. We need some in Middle America. Of course, we have producer Cam. Shout out to Cam. So we cover everywhere because we cover the tri-state area. We cover California. Cam covers Nebraska because what people don't know is that's where everyone's going, Nebraska.
Sometimes I have to cover Vegas. Sometimes you have to cover Miami. We get it all done.
We do. You know, it's so funny. I was talking to someone today because, I usually go, there's nothing really me going crazy for this year's first traveling. I'll go to Florida in a little bit. And then, this year's Super Bowl Dax is in New Orleans. And I was talking to someone yesterday about like covering New Orleans. How's that going to be? I'm like, I'm sort of scared. Like, have you been to New Orleans? I'm not saying New Orleans is scary. But with all that people, with so many people being New Orleans, it's going to be, New Orleans is big, but it's not big. The French Quarter is not big. Like the happening area is not big. Mm-hmm. So with everyone going on down there, I just don't know how many, like Vegas was perfect for celebrities. I just don't know how many celebrities are going to go to New Orleans, but I'm sure there's going to be some.
I'm sure there's going to be a ton. I have never been there. I've always wanted to go. I wanted to go, obviously, for Carnival or what is it?
Mardi Gras.
What is it? Mardi Gras. I'm like, it's at the same time as Carnival. Mardi Gras. And then I feel like my time's passed. Now I'm an old dad, got 2 kids.
It's exhausting.
Now I feel like I'm going to be like, I can't stay up late. I need to get to bed.
Yeah, like 48 hours of drinking.
So I can go to sleep. Here's your beads. Okay.
You know what? Actually, it's funny. When the Mardi Gras is like a few. I've been to Mardi Gras, but the Super Bowl, I wonder if the Super Bowl is actually technically, because the date-wise, I forget if Mardi Gras, I know someone who's listened to the podcast who's from New Orleans is saying that's not how Mardi Gras works. I've done Fat Tuesday Mardi Gras. The Super Bowl is usually right before Valentine's Day, so I don't know if Mardi Gras kind of works with
or whatever.
The Super Bowl. Yeah, but it's going to be, I don't know, I'm not looking forward to it. How's your summer going, Dax? You had like the most incredible summer.
Summer was great. Did my big old trip to Barcelona or to Spain to see Barcelona
and Florida
and Madrid, and went to Florida, and it's all done because kids are back in school. So now it's time to buckle up and get back to work. We do have like a cruise coming up at the end of the year, but that's it. I mean, this year I don't think we've ever traveled this much. It just kind of all coincided together with like. My mother-in-law's like birthday that's coming up. That's why we're doing a trip. it was just all over the place. My daughter's birthday is why I went to Florida. So it's been a lot. So I'm broke now, but it's all good.
I get it. I'm getting like all these like sort of opportunities, like their potential stuff. If one of them goes through, it'd be incredible. But it's like it's I have to work hard for it. So we'll see. I was about to say it, and I'm not going to say it because I'm not going to say it. I don't want to jinx it. And number 2, I don't want anybody else questioning me, asking me questions about it. Knock on wood. I've had some very close calls to having career-defining moments or career-defining things that could potentially happen. Opportunities
that just keep getting ripped out from underneath you.
Dax, as you know, more than I've had so many opportunities that were so close. From COVID to someone getting fired, like within 24 hours, like ruined my chances of opportunities that would change my life. And if this one goes through, it will change my life. But it's a very far reach. We're in the early stages, and we'll see what happens.
I wish you luck.
Thank you.
Today's guest is actually pretty interesting. If you were obsessed with the Johnny Depp court situation, like a lot of us were, you're gonna like today's guest. He was basically hired by Amber's team and ended up more helping Johnny's team than he could have probably ever imagined. He is a Hollywood fixer. So we got ourselves a Hollywood fixer on the Hollywood Raw podcast. But he has not just worked for Amber Heard and the Johnny Depp situation, worked with a bunch of big celebrities, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Cruise. I mean, the list can go on and on. I think David Boreanaz is on that list as well. So we're going to get into and figure out, what is it like to be a Hollywood fixer? What does that mean? How much money can you make? I mean, I feel like we have a lot of questions that we want to throw out at this guy, because this is, I feel like, right in the wheelhouse for our audience of someone that they would love to have on this podcast. So I'm excited to have him on today.
Yeah, I'm excited to have him. So before we get to him, Dax, we read reviews because, again, we love him so much that we read them to you guys just to kind of repeat them, because we just want to keep reading reviews. And again, it's the best thing to do to support this podcast. If you do a review, it helps us with the algorithm. So Dax, do you have a review ready for us?
Yes, I do. All right. This one comes from Corey Facio. It's a 5-star review, and the title says 5 stars. What an amazing duo. I was never big into pop culture, and then I stumbled upon this podcast while finding out about a particular story in Hollywood. Been hooked ever since. Between this podcast and the private Facebook group, I felt like I got all the info I need. Love these guys. That's awesome.
Perfect.
I think what I like the most is knowing that they came in not really looking for us particularly, or they just got hooked on a story and they found us and they loved us and they stuck around. That is the greatest, I guess, endorsement I could ask for. So
no, 100%. It just feels good to us, but it really helps us out with potential sponsors. So hopefully the network comes through. But besides that, just thank you for listening. And thank you just for enjoying the show, because Dax and I enjoy doing it. And it's just very cool. We started this a couple years ago, and it's kind of grown and grown. It keeps growing. So it's just exciting to see what this could turn into. And what it potentially can turn into is with the help of you guys giving us reviews and supporting the podcast. So thank you. Now, Dax, tell us about our guest today.
All right. Well, we got on a Hollywood fixer, a private investigator, an author who goes by the name of Paul Barresi. And we are going to dive deep into the land of Amber and Johnny. Paul, thank you so much for joining us, man. We were getting excited to talk to you. You've had a very crazy, interesting life. After this whole Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial, I think your name really got put on the radar for us. So I'm looking forward to talking to you. But we're going to just jump right into it, because your one of your titles is Hollywood Fixer, and I want to kind of explain to our audience, what does that mean? What is a Hollywood Fixer?
I could probably give you a million different definitions. It's more of a guy who's the last resort guy. You've heard the term go-to guy, last resort guy, cleanup man. Yeah. That's pretty much what a fixer is. After attorneys exhaust every avenue to try to bring the opposition to the table, to try to find some common ground, to help them see their way clear to doing the right thing and not, dump their high-powered celebrity client in the shit, they call on me. And so I'm the last resort guy. I'm the guy who will jump a fence, climb a tree, swim the ocean, do whatever has to be done,
And so let me understand.
It's my niche, I'm out there in the field, and I'm fearless. Like the paparazzis, they're pretty fearless. I put myself in their category.
That is accurate. So I want to understand properly, but the way you are entwined with this whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard saga was that you were actually hired by Amber Heard's team to kind of do a deep dive into Johnny's life. Is that correct? And see if you could kind of dig up some dirt to kind of help their case. And in the long run, it all flipped. You honestly became more of a help for Johnny's team than Amber's team. Is that accurate?
Well, it turned out that, I was tasked to find evidence to support Amber's allegations that Johnny was a mean-spirited, irascible-natured woman beater. And everywhere I turned, every stone I turned over, every corner I looked around, there was no evidence to show that. So whatever I produced obviously favored Johnny rather than Amber, which, of course, Amber didn't think too kindly about that. But what can I do? I can't make it. I can't create dirt on Johnny. And that's how it turned out. Yeah. So I ended up helping Johnny more than Amber in the end.
So how did they find you in the first place? They're like, we need a Hollywood fixer. How did they find you? Is it just word of mouth? And then what do they say to you when they hire you? They say, listen, we're working on it. We just need as much dirt on Johnny Depp. How does it all go
I have
down?
a reputation out there. So all the ivory tower attorneys, the high-powered lawyers who make $1,500, $2,000 an hour, they know me. They know who I am. My introduction was through Marty Singer, who's one of the preeminent entertainment lawyers in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And he introduced me to Eric George and Rick Schwartz, who represented Amber. And that's how I got in. But I had already done some things for Eric George prior to that. So I had a track. I was established. I had a good track record with Eric George, and that's how I got into it.
So when they hire you, do they say do any means necessary? Do they kind of say, hey, do what you need to do? Where there's like, if you got to kind of dance the line, maybe do something a little bit that could. What I'm basically getting to is everything you do is illegal.
I'm my own guy. I'm my own man. I'm my own man. Across the board, they don't tell me what to do or how to do it. I just go get the job done. I look where I have to look and make the necessary calls, do the research, whatever I have to do to get the information. I got free reign, so to speak.
So, I feel though with like someone like Johnny Depp, who is an A-list celebrity, his circle has been very tight for many, many years. He knows how to keep information in. How do you penetrate those walls? Because I got to imagine anyone that knows him knows that if they talk, they're out of his circle pretty quick.
Well, I don't know. What I found during my investigation is that he associated himself with a bunch of fucking bums, a bunch of freeloading losers that had their hand out, In fact, I even engaged Adam Waldman in a conversation about that very subject. And this was way after I stopped working the case. I said, Adam, everywhere I turned, Johnny's got somebody ripping him off, some like this Isaac Baruch guy who was a star witness. The guy is a quintessential freeloader. And Adam even told me, he says, yeah, Johnny knows that. But he's like an old shoe in the back of the fucking closet collecting dust. The guy just won't leave. He's a grown man. He's over 60. And he's been mooching off Johnny for over a decade that I know of, having his ass wiped and his rent paid. He could go out and get a job at Starbucks if he's that much of a bum, of a loser, which I found he was. This may upset a lot of people out there, but I don't care. I know he was Johnny's star witness, and people loved him. He put on a hell of a show. But he would go get a job at Starbucks, or he'd be a greeter at Walmart or Costco or something. He would be self-sufficient just to say, hey, Johnny, I don't expect you to take care of me the rest of my life. I mean, after all, I am a grown man. And I learned a lot of things about a lot of people Johnny associated with. He hung out with the wrong people. You say he has this inner circle, but I think he allowed people to insinuate their way into his life who he just didn't know how to get rid of.
Like Amber Heard?
Yeah.
Well, Hunter Thompson wasn't good for him. Hunter Thompson, I know they say they were friends. Jonathan Shaw, the tattoo artist, he wasn't good for Johnny with all the bikers and the criminals he hung out with. Johnny didn't need that. All of that redound to his disadvantage. And that's what I discovered along the way.
Well, Paul, tell me this.
There are some people that love him, admire him, and respect him, and were good to him. Yes, I've talked to those people too. But the bad apples are the ones that are going to harm him, not the good people.
So when you're going into an investigation like this, how much is the other team helping you out? Like, are they feeding you information to talk to people? Do they assist at all in any way?
Yeah, does Amber Heard even get involved and say, "Hey, can you check on this for us?"
Well, when I went in, I met the lawyers, and they said, and I thought it was a slam dunk the way they were talking. Like, the evidence is overwhelming. Johnny beats up on women. He's abusive. And I said, well, great. Case closed. Let me go at it and stand it up. But that wasn't the case. What I think happened was that they were thoroughly convinced that Johnny was a woman beater. And what I think happened was that I was hired on a faulty assumption to look for evidence to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
So, which made my job even harder. And so I was blindsided with that. I didn't really come to that conclusion until I was well into the investigation. I began my investigation in July 9th, 2019, and it continued to September 15th, 2019. So I was in it, belt and suspenders all the way. And it was halfway in, I realized, wait a minute, there's something wrong here.
What was the conversation you had with a witness or a friend that said that your mind went, nope, Johnny is not the wife beater. Johnny is not the guy.
It was every door I knocked on, every call I made, routinely and consistently. It was like a broken record. It was like a song sung to the same tune. Everyone said the same thing, that Johnny was a sweetheart, that he was unbelievably generous to a fault, and all these amazing qualities. And I thought, well, I need to divorce myself from these people you spoke of who is close-knit friends, and I need to go further back. So I went back into time, and I discovered him, because I believe we become what we end up becoming as a result of how we were brought up and what we faced as a child. I know it sounds a little strange, but why go back to his childhood? Because that's when we're molded. That's when we develop our minds, develop how we treat people and so forth. So I went back to childhood. I found out what a tumultuous, fractured upbringing he had, with his parents always at each other's throats, and he was a loner. He had his guitar, he had his music. That's where he found his solace. And through the journey, I realized that Johnny and I had a lot in common. His father, like my father, was a civil servant. He floundered miserably academically in school in his formative years. He had a parent who was violent, physically violent, as did I. And we shared a lot of common humanities, which gave me more of an impetus to even try harder to help Amber, because I really wanted to dig in and find out what it was about Johnny that made him so angry and made him so bitter, and what would lead him to want to strike a woman. And I just couldn't come up with anything. So it turned out to be a human interest story as well. And it was cathartic for me, because I saw a lot of myself, of what he went through as a child. And it became very personal to me, because I was looking for answers for myself too. So many similarities. It's quite staggering. His father was a womanizer, as was mine. His father had eyes for other women. On the stand, Johnny said that his mother had fire in her feet. She liked to move around all the time. My family moved around all the time as well. Well, it was only partially truthful. His family moved around a lot, not necessarily because his mother had fire in her feet, but because his father had a tough time holding down a job. And so he had to go from place to place. And my father had the same issue. And so there are a lot of interesting similarities. Just to
Were
show,
you
I've been
there
investigating-
at the trial? Did you show up at all to the trial?
No. I
No.
saw bits and pieces of it on TV.
Were you fascinated with it, having dove so deep into their lives and to doing this investigation? Were you interested to see how it played out, or you were like, my job is done and now I'm just going to let the court handle their stuff?
Well, I was fascinated. I mean, fascinated. I was more disappointed because there was evidence that I uncovered that could have helped. After all, I was Amber's PI, so let's get that straight. But I believe there was evidence that I uncovered that could have impugned the credibility of Johnny Depp's star witness. Not that it would be enough to win the day for Amber, but if she were a boxer in a cage with Johnny or in the ring with Johnny, I saw her get knocked down time after time after time. At least there would have been some times where she would just be up against the ropes had they brought in some of the evidence that I uncovered. I wondered after it was over if they even got the file, because Amber went from the lawyers I worked for to another team of lawyers to another team of lawyers. So along the way, did some of this stuff get lost? For example, when Isaac Baruch, his star witness, who Johnny takes care of, testified, all he had was his art, that he had nothing else. And one day he was asked the question, it was put to him, Mr. Baruch, did there ever come a time where you wanted to pay Johnny back? He said, oh yeah, I want to give him half of my sandwich. He's the kind of guy who gave me half of his sandwich. And he was crying and everything. You know, today the house he inherited is worth over $250,000. His mom left he and his sister the home, beachside home in Florida. And none of that was revealed in court. So he wasn't really as bad off as he let on to be, or as pathetic. He likes to pretend he's pathetic, maybe, I don't know, but things like that. That's one of the things that I discovered, that he was a lot better off than he held himself out to be. And I write about it in this book, which we'll talk about whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, go ahead, Adam.
Well, actually, I was going to say, because, you know, obviously we're going to get more into your book. And in your book, you talk about working with other celebrities. Because you work with other celebrities and you have this relationship with them and with their people, their teams, how much blackmail goes on in Hollywood? How many times are people, celebrities, managers, agents hitting you up and say, hey, someone reach out to us. They have a piece of content that I don't want out there. They ask for a certain amount of money. I don't want this out. How much blackmail is going on out there?
Well, you guys got to understand the inner workings of lawyers. It's not blackmail. It's called quid pro quo. It's like a non-disclosure. It's a deal the attorneys make. They
So
say,
are you
okay,
saying legal blackmail?
well, look, let's use Donald Trump, right? Stormy Daniels alleged that she was with Trump and this happened and that happened. So what's going to benefit me more? Do I want to fight in court where it all comes out, all the disclosure, or do I just want to pay him off and get him out of my hair? And that's usually what happens. So it's not blackmail. Everybody thinks it's blackmail. And attorneys are not in the business of getting into any deals where there's extortion, anything that's extortive in nature, or blackmail. What they do is they sit down and they negotiate. They say what's best for the client. It might not even be true. And William Hazlitt, who was a critic in the early 19th century, late 18th century said if you want to create an unfavorable impression about someone, it isn't necessary that what is said be true. The damage can be done just in the mere telling of it, especially if you're a celebrity. I mean, the common Joe, it's not going to bother them. But a celebrity, they got their career, livelihood, and reputation to think about. Say,
So,
okay,
Paul, then
if it's only, go ahead.
We'll rephrase the question. How much go away money is dealt in Hollywood to make things go away and disappear?
Well, let me give you a real life account of a case I worked. Actor David Boreanaz, who worked in the show Angel, and then subsequently a show called Bones. This is on the set of Bones, where a beautiful woman, she kind of wooed her way toward him, and the body language and everything was there, like she was interested. And she, most men, they get roped in pretty easily. She came on to him, and he took her in his, they were in the car. I'm trying to remember, it was a while ago, either the car or the trailer. And she alleged that he made an unwanted overture toward her, touched her in a certain place, her breast. And so what does she do the next day? She goes and she hires Gloria Allred. David Boreanaz hires a lawyer I work for. The lawyer I work for brings me in on the case. They showed, to the best of my knowledge, they showed the videotapes to Gloria Allred, and the demand for $1 million dwindled down to like 50,000. So that's how that worked.
Interesting. So it's just digging in to find out these people's past. Yeah. Wow.
Well, I mean, you
have to be creative too. To be a fixer, it's all me being in the adult world as a former porn star. It was a stepping stone into that world. Who knew that being in that world would equip me to deal with sexually based scandal? But it is, after all, in that realm, isn't it? The red light district, the sex industry follows the movie industry like the moon. Everybody wants to know who's in bed with who. So who better than me to deal with sexually based scandal, which is my area of expertise.
Well, then let me ask you this, Paul. How many sex tapes are out there that you kind of bury?
Well,
celebrity sex tapes. The celebrity goes, "Hey, someone's got a video of me. I don't want out there. I need you to fix this."
That I personally had something to do with?
Or if you even know about it. Do you hear about this often?
Yeah. But I mean, I've heard of quite a few, but I personally stopped one particular sex tape, but I'm really not at liberty to get into detail on that.
Well, you don't tell me can you tell me how you did it and what happened? You don't tell me the name, but can you tell me what happened, what was going on in the video, and how did you kind of squash it?
Well, no, I can't, because the elements of how that happened, that's going a little bit too much nuance, too much detail there. Sorry.
No, well, let me ask you this, Paul.
Maybe part two.
Yeah. Do you ever have to do anything? I don't want to say shady, but some people, listen, I'm a journalist. I've done some stuff that people could consider, hey, that could be unethical. For you to get what you need done, because you need to show the client that you are valuable, what are some of the craziest things that you have to do to kind of get the information that's going to make you good at your job, what they're looking for?
The risk of me, you say shady, so then people make comments, Barresi's a shady guy. No, I'm a creative guy. And if you don't go into the lion's den, you can't steal the cubs. And I'm fearless. And that's, and for people, there's somebody, Mick Muffin, they got these tag names. They're typing away all these things about what they think of me. And I don't know their names, so I'm not going to subject myself to that. I mean, the thing is, and I tell them, I live in Rancho Cucamonga. I go to the coffee shop on the corner of Foothill and Haven every morning at 6 o'clock. It's called the Coffee Bean. if you ever want to say something about Paul Barresi, you want to call me names, you think you know me, come and tell me to my face. That's what I tell them straight up. But as far as in the gray area or crossing the line, you can't always produce results if you don't cross a line in some way, shape, or form. You just have to do it convincingly and with confidence. Now, when Eddie Murphy got into trouble with those transvestites back in the 90s, do you recall?
Yeah.
He picked up a transvestite, or he was going to pick up a transvestite named Shalimar. Her real name was Addison Zuli. She was Samoan. And she looked like a real woman, beautiful. And so the rumor prevailed that he had a sexual proclivity for transvestites. And after that incident, all of the transvestites in the area came out of the woodwork alleging they had sex with Eddie Murphy. So I was assigned by his lawyer to go to find each one of them who made these allegations. There were 7 of them, and help them all see their way clear to telling the truth, which was they did not have sexual relations with Murphy, because they were all alleging they had sex with Murphy. Mm-hmm. And I got them all to do it. I convinced them. I was convincing. Except Addison, who fell off the building in Koreatown where she lived. She fell off the roof. So for years after that, the LGBTQ community and the transvestite community, they thought, okay, well, Barresi threw her off the roof. So that was the rumor that prevailed.
Paul, I wanted to ask you, I know that you have also been associated with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Cruise. Can you get into any of those situations and how either you were connected to them or hired or whatever the story is with them?
Sure. Schwarzenegger in 2001, before he was handed the governor position, right, in the recall, 2001, he contemplated actually running. So he wanted to know what he was up against, what dirt was out there on him, what might come to light that could hurt him.
Like a love child, maybe?
Well, his womanizing, his extramarital affairs, whatever. And so they hired me to find out, and I found out a lot of stuff on him. And when I turned over the file to his lawyer, actually, I turned it over to Pelicano, because Pelicano, who is a preeminent, he's one of
he's a PI, right?
Fissatori in Italian, a fixer of fixers. He served about 20 years in prison. He made me, or he brought me in on the case, and I brought the file to him. I said, "There's not some stuff about Arnie here. It's not that flattering." And so Arnold, after he got the information, he decided not to run, which was a good move. Tom Cruise, he was at the center of a scandal. Some gay porn star / street hustler alleged he had gay relations with Tom Cruise. And I put that fire out for Cruise. And this was around the time he was divorcing Nicole. So he needed to get that fixed. And I fixed it really quick. So those are 2 cases those are the 3 cases or 4 that I discussed. Boreanaz, Tom Cruise, Schwarzenegger, and Eddie Murphy.
Hey, Paul, how much, just out of curiosity, when you deal with like a celebrity case, I know it goes case by case, but what is like the rate to hire someone like you?
Well, I'd like to get as much as I can. I would,
of course, but
I would get a $10,000 retainer, sometimes 25,000.
Gotcha.
Sometimes some people would hire me directly. They would try to nickel and dime me. I try to stay away from them.
Well, even like with the Johnny Depp situation, they Amber Heard's team hires you. They pay you a retainer because you didn't get them what they wanted. Do they still pay you 10 grand?
No, I got paid. I ended up making some really good money on that case. No, you still get paid. You still do the work.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Hey, Paul,
I heard a rumor that Elon Musk was taking care of her.
Yeah.
Her bills.
They were dating for quite some time.
So I wasn't worried about being paid. I got paid.
So being a Hollywood fixer, and you've worked for obviously some huge celebrities so far, do you ever see a case go down or a story in the news that would be like, man, I wish that they would hire me for this. Like, I am so fascinated with this story. I would love to help them out. I'd love to get paid, though, to obviously work on this case. Do you have like a dream case that you would want to work on?
Well, there was one case that I injected myself into that I ended up being helpful. Warren Beatty was accused wrongfully of raping a young woman. In that case, I brought the information I gathered to the powers that be on Warren Beatty's behalf. I wanted to get involved in that case, and I just decided to do it on my own to see what I could turn up. I turned up some pretty good information and turned it over to the powers that be. So that was one case.
Now, Paul, we mentioned in the intro that you had a book out. You're the author of the Johnny Depp's Accidental Fixer.
Oh, are you talking about
that one? The one that just happens to be in your hand at this time?
About this? Wait a second. Let me go a step further here. How about this?
Oh,
one?
yes. Very nice. So you're the author behind this Johnny Depp's Accidental Fixer. It's up on Amazon for anyone who wants to read it. What if they pick up this book? What are they going to be reading about?
Well, I wrote this. It has a noir kind of feeling, but it takes everyone on my journey, the journey I just explained to you guys, from July 9th to September 15th of 2019, and covering mostly the high points and the revelations that I uncovered. A lot of the things that I uncovered, it's all backed up with documents, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Solid proof. Megan Fox, who is a journalist and an author, she wrote a book called Believe Evidence, and I understand where she's coming from. Irrespective of what people say and what you may claim, you got to always have proof in the form of some kind of document, because your word alone isn't enough, especially a guy like me. In fact, I write about that, my multifaceted career, from adult, from Hollywood actor to adult film star, to back to Hollywood acting, to private detective, to Hollywood fixer. I write about all those stages, and I also interject some of the other cases I've worked beyond the Johnny Depp case. But it's really it's a quick read. Look, it's not a thick book. It's 134 pages. I really would invite anyone to read it. I think they're going to like it. Every page is interesting. It's gotten 5-star reviews so far across
Are
the
you
board.
finding a lot of the Johnny Depp super fans are really appreciative of your work and what you've figured out?
Yeah, the ones who have read it, the feedback has been really terrific. That I really get into, do a deep dive into Johnny's life, and I uncover historical documents that illuminate Johnny's life in the historical context before he even became an actor, which is fascinating. The impact that his mom and dad's tumultuous relationship had on his own life, and how they molded him in to the man and to the legend, the myth that he became today. And it's a very positive, it's for the most part, I think, a very enlightening and very positive true account of what Johnny Depp is all about. You think you know everything about the trial, but this even goes deeper than just the trial.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I encourage people, if you want to check out this book, if you are a Johnny Depp fan, you want that little more in-depth knowledge, head on over to Amazon, search Paul Barresi, search Johnny Depp's Accidental Fixer. The book pops right up. You can find it on Amazon, super easy. And take a read, and then after you read it, hit him up, tell him what you think, leave him that review. We always ask for reviews on the podcast. Leave him a review. But man, you really have had such a fascinating life. Every aspect of it has kind of, been different and wild. And I love this whole Hollywood fixer. It's so interesting to me to hear the stories of these huge celebs that you've worked with, the stories that you have helped them out with. I think it's awesome. So I really appreciate your time coming on, chatting about just your work, because it's so unusual. It's not like anyone else's job out there, and that's what's so cool about it.
Well, are you telling me we're wrapping it up right now? Because I'm just warmed up.
We only have so much time on our podcast.
All right. Well,
what are we going to say?
I'll come back. Well, you have to get me back.
We'll get
Definitely.
you back on.
Yeah.
Sure.
But listen, when I'm talking about these fuckers here that made my life miserable, don't interrupt me and don't say don't bring them in, because I'm bringing them in. I'm looking. I'm gonna.
We're helping you try to find them, Paul.
We're gonna have my day with every goddamn one of them.
Paul, we're already starting to Google those guys and try to find them for you. So don't worry. We're on your team.
I'm gonna handle it. I'll deal with it.
We're Team Paul. We got your back.
Well, all right, really?
Yep.
You want to go with me out in the field sometime?
Come on, Paul. Let's go. Let's do it. That'd be great. I've done it before. Let's do it.
I have to see how you swing a bat before we go out there. Well, a lot of it's for show. You just get some guys that'll just stand up there, and
yeah, of course.
But you have to be able to back the shit up if you have to.
It's true.
Do you remember when Farrah Fawcett got beat up by that son of a bitch producer she went with? He beat her up so bad out there in the carport. Remember that?
Yeah.
Years ago, all bruised up. Was it Farrah Fawcett? Yeah, it was Farrah Fawcett. And so there was a contract to take care of that son of a bitch. And and there were some boys from Chicago that were going to work them over. Don't ask me how I know all this. But somebody put a team together, and there are just some people out there, and I'll cap it off with this. There's just some people out there that deserve a good fucking beating, and I'm telling you, if your heart, I swear to God, guys, if your heart's into it and you believe it, you see it, you smell it, you breathe it, you know it, then you're all in. You have 10 hearts, 100 arms, man. You can do it. So next time you get an offer like that, don't be afraid. Do it. If you think they deserve it, do it, okay? Hope you learned something tonight.
I love it.
Yeah. Interesting line of work he's got. I mean, actually, do you think you'd be a good Hollywood fixer?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. 100%.
Seriously?
But I wouldn't call myself a fixer. I think I'd be a good PI or someone who could dive deep into stories, because that's all I've done throughout most of my career is dive into stories, call sources, talk to people. The idea is to break news, but this one, it's not to break news. It's to get information and either help someone out or, dig up shit on them, essentially. I feel like I could easily do that. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's funny how many journalists go into PR after their career, or do journalism for a while, then they go into PR because they understand both sides. And sort of what we've done, I think we could definitely be a good PI. I think I do a little bit of PI already. And
Yeah.
have you done any Hollywood fixing, Dax?
So I was hired at one point. I can't talk too much of it because there's some NDAs, but I was hired by a very powerful person at one point to investigate another person. And I spent months doing it. And it was kind of a similar situation that Paul had, where I was looking to see if this person had done some like kind of dirty stuff. And everyone I talked to, it just didn't seem to be the case. So I was just hitting a lot of dead ends in regards to maybe the sources that are telling you this information aren't accurate with the information, because this other person doesn't seem to be the scumbag that you're talking about, you know?
Yeah.
And I talked to a lot of people and got deep into this person's world, and it didn't seem to be the situation.
Are you doing, when you did it, did you just kind of do Googling and make phone calls and try to talk to your contacts, or were you doing any following in your car? Were you outside the person's home?
No, not following. It was a lot of calling, messaging, hitting up on IG, cold calling people, and that I got a long way with that. And I was meeting up with people. But again, it didn't pan out the way that I thought it was going to pan out, because the person just didn't have that history.
Yeah. I get it. Well, thank you, Paul, for coming on the podcast. Make sure you check us out on Red Coral. We have some videos on YouTube, but we recommend going to Red Coral because it's a better exchange for us. And if you have content, check out Red Coral. It's a really cool site. Follow us on Instagram. If you need
to find us, go to HollywoodRaw.com, and we have a link to Red Coral, because sometimes people are like, hey, I want to check out your Red Coral. What's the easiest way to get there? Because there's a lot of content that you can find on Red Coral. So if you want to get straight to us, HollywoodRaw.com, the top link is to our Red Coral page.
Yes, and make sure you check out our TikTok, Instagram, Facebook page. We have a private Facebook group called Off the Record, which you guys should be in, because we are in it, and you can ask us questions. We ask you questions, and we kind of keep up with each other. It's a really, really cool community. Follow me at Adam Glenn. Follow Dax Holt at Dax Holt, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
What's up, guys? If you like that video, there's plenty more where that came from.
Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell so we can just feed you all the goodness daily.
Hurry up. Come on, let's go.